Afternoon everyone, Ian from DIY Home and Gardening. It's been absolutely hammering it down this morning. Only just got up to the allotment and my intention is to plant out the squash in this bed behind me. So if I turn the camera around and we can have a look together. So this is to be my squash bed. And I've given the perimeters a bit of a weed, which is what the rams are eating at the moment. I've put up some uprights, which they are upright that way, not necessarily that way. And my intention with those is to use those as a bit of a climbing frame. And so they are going to be my climbing frame for Tromboncino, which I've not grown before. I've seen a few people grow them on Instagram and YouTube and just thought they might be quite fun to try. They're actually a courgette rather than in the squash family, but you know, same difference really, isn't it? So my intention is that I'll be making that as a bit of a climbing frame and planting Tromboncino either side. And then within the rest of this bed, let's find the labels for you. I've then got the squash Uchiki, the butternut squash Sweetmax. My intention is to plant runner beans within here as well, so sort of working on the same theme, you know, almost like my, well, three sisters but two sisters theme. So good companion planting, and also some Turks Turban, and they are all going to be set out, planted in this space here. As I say, going to incorporate the runner beans as well, and I'm thinking might also, space depending, add in the nasturtiums for a little bit of colour and companion planting to try and draw in the beneficial pollinators. And the other bits, well, they're just to go elsewhere. So I'm going to plant these out first, and going to do two aside. First two will be on this side to come up this away. My other two are going to be coming this side to come up this away, and within the middles spacing is then at 50 centimetre spacing on my normal squash. So I've set all the plants out, 60 centimetre spacings between there, and then what I do is then put a staggered plant, if you like, on the other side. My thinking being is that these ones on this side will run across that away, and to be honest, it doesn't matter how far they go because they can go across that pathway, and then this one will then come this way and it can eat into this pathway because, well, it just can, or when it gets to this pathway I'll then run it along the edge. So I've got the pot set out. What I tend to do is I'll use the same coloured pot for each, well, of the same plant basically. So these ones I know are my butternut squash. Then I've got a grey pot which is then for the Turks Turban, set out exactly the same way, so opposites, not opposites, alternates. Then I've got my first two Tromboncinos, which will then come up and over. Under here are the Uchiki. They're not staggered, but they'd be easy enough to manoeuvre. And the other couple of Tromboncinos. When you come to setting the plants out, the easiest way to set them out is if you know which direction they're going to travel in, and by that I mean which way they're going to start growing at a rate of knots at, which you can see on some of these already. Now this oval leaf is a seedling leaf, then that leaf is a true leaf, so first true leaf develops, second true leaf develops, and it's the side of the second true leaf that is the direction that the plant's going to travel in. So then you can set them up to grow whichever way you want, or whichever direction. So I always wait until second true leaf at least. But as you can see, what I tend to do, or my preferred option, is I go from cell trays and then I plant into a 1 litre size pot, which then gives you a nice chunky plant, good root zone, and especially on a year like this year, means that you're going to have some good plants that are able to cope with a bit of slug damage, and we have had a lot of slug damage. So these are set out. I'm going to get these planted. Once they're planted, I'll then set up a frame for doing the beans. Gloves are on, trowel are ready. Let's get planting. It's worth noting that this bed was prepared quite a while ago, well, back in the autumn time, so it's had a good layer of manure stuck in there, which provides some really good nutrients. It was looking quite dry, but we have had an absolute bucket load of rain last night and this morning, so good old root system. I always like to make sure there's a little bit more soil up around the stem of the plant. Just means that it's going to root into it nicely and develop a little bit more strength to the top. So get these ones done, get the other side done, and that's butternut squash done. Just whip out any weeds as you go. Butternut squash done. I'll tackle the rest next. So that is all the squash planted. Just got these Tromboncinos to go now. So when I'm doing my planting, obviously I'm wanting the plant to go this way for these two, because the intention is to grow them up, and then those two will be facing this way to grow up on that side. And whether I have time today to get the frame done, I do not know, but at least I will be able to get the planting done. And that's the main thing, because then, well, then I've got them in the ground, they can begin growing, and to be honest, the framework can come at a slightly later date, but the important bit is always to get the plants going as quickly as possible to guarantee the crop, whereas the frame won't matter in terms of that side of things, in terms of cropping. So again, Tromboncinos, just covering some of the stem, and I think that definitely will be beneficial for these ones, because they put on such a massive amount of growth that any additional root zone that you can create by burying the stem is really going to help. So this one here is the one with the split in the stem. It should be okay, but what I'm going to do is bury it deeper, which, as long as the plant's healthy, which it is, it should make a full recovery and continue to grow, but it's always that just in case. So I'm going to bury it deeper, and that will enable more of the root, more of the stem to produce some root, which will facilitate it essentially growing strongly around the damaged part. And that's the only problem with these plants and with pumpkins, is the fact that they put so much growth on and become quite brittle. Slightest little knocks, or indeed if they put on suddenly too much growth, that can cause the stem to split as well. Certainly found that over the years with my pumpkins. So we just mount that up. So all squash done, Tromboncino's done. Now to do the frame and get these beans in. There we are, and just like that, the frame is up for my runner beans. I've pinched the tops on all the beans as well. I've stuck some nasturtiums in some strategic points, and I've also shored up this pergola-like structure, give it a bit of rigidity, and that's going to allow me then to use the baseboards, as in here, to run strings vertical, and then I can also then run horizontal strings across that way, and that's going to allow, hopefully, touch wood, enough support for the Tromboncino to go up and over, and whilst they go up, they will provide a bit of shade to these Uchiki's, which all squash actually do prefer a little bit of dappled shade, so that will hopefully even provide a bit of shade for those. Likewise, the runner beans, I'm thinking, will provide a bit of dappled shade for the other squash, and in turn the runner beans will also provide some nutrients by way of nitrogen fixing, so locking nitrogen from the atmosphere into the ground for the squash to be able to take up. So that is it, that's my squash bed planted, and the only thing I've got left to add now, which I'm trying for the first time this year, is coffee grounds. Because supposedly it works well to keep out slugs, and I've got to be honest, I've tried it on this bed, which is my dahlia bed, and after 4 days of rain and overcast, there doesn't actually seem to be any slug damage. So whether that's coincidental, I do not know, but yeah, that's what I'm going to try here, the coffee grounds, and see whether it works. So that is it, as I say, squash bed plus the Tromboncino all finished. The rain has actually held off, which is amazing, to the point where I've had to water in the runner beans, which wouldn't have thought I'd be saying that at the beginning of the day. Anyway, squash bed done. If you've got any questions, then please send them to me. I'll do my very best to answer them for you. If you like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on future videos. And I always say it, but it is so true, just enjoy yourself, have fun, and maybe try a little bit of different companion planting or a different way to grow your squash. So, until next time, bye for now.